Well, that's all 4 videos done, and I'm back on this nice relaxing walk. This is all recorded before the live stream, by the way. Hope you enjoyed it, by the way.
Wretch, wretch.
Well, it's time for the first of the 4 videos, starting with... Oh, I forgot his name. Darklands, Vras, Spear of Vras from the 3 claws. Yeah. Start with some ossified earth primer, then coat all of the skin and tail with Bugman's Glow. Then it's fine oxide going over all that leather detail. Dried bark is up next, going over all that wooden detail on the shield. Following that is Stegodon Scale Green, going on the tarred rags under the armour. Next up is Mechanicus Standard Grey, going over those tiny tufts of fur. With how their colours are, you'll need some Caliban Green for all those shoulder pads. Next up is Wool Cloak, but all you need to do is just apply it into the inside of that mouth and you can just call it complete. Tidy up the toes and teeth with Morghast Bone and then we can move on to the metallic. And then the actual only metallic, which is Runefang Steel. This is going over all the metal areas. Now onto the shading steps, starting with Flesh Wash, only going over the skin except for the tail. Now it's time for Carabed Crimson, going over the tongue, nose and even the tail. The teeth, toes and boils will now have to be applied with Nazdrag Yellow. For all that leather, wood and metal, shade with Agrax Earthshade. Then just use Null Oil for all those tufts of fur. Apply some Athonian Camo Shade onto all that pauldron. And finish up the shading process with Corellia Green Shade on the tabard. The first layer is Cadian Flesh Tone, being applied to all the skin. Apply Baneblade Brown onto the wood to brighten up the grain. Then finish the tabard with Sotek Green. Give the nails and eyes some Corvus Black to lock in those areas. For the hair, just put in some Dawnstone and you can lock it down as done. Now give the edges of the leather some highlights of Mournfang and you can call it finished. Stipple on some Warpstone Glow onto the green. If you find some areas are a bit too small, just swap over to a smaller brush. Then just apply some Runefang Steel onto the metal and the model's done and we can go onto the base. For the base we'll keep it separate and apply on Sterling Mud over the inside part. After it dries, shade on some Agrax Earthshade. While the shade dries, put on some Corax White over the lines on the base rim, then tidy up any mistakes with Abaddon Black. Dry brush on some Gorthar Brown, and then we can start thinking about gluing on the model. For this part, don't do what I did, instead drill a small 1mm hole into the foot and base, then glue a metal wire into the foot and then glue it onto the base both underneath and above for a secure bond. Then attach some Verdia Velt onto the base and you can call it done! And there you go, a Spear of Wrath ready to take on the Darklands and enslave the realms above.
Space!
The gates are being breached by the Gar. It's time to defend your borders with the Algorin. Let's paint them. Start with a full coverage of Chaos Black Primer, followed by a coating of Flesh Taurus Red to start off the armour. Proceed to make a 1-to-1 mixture of contrast medium and beside having gray. Then add the mixture into the recesses of the armour. Next up is a dry brush of Razdaka Red all over, and the armour plating colour is done. As simple as that. And of course there is under armour, which will be needing Abaddon Black over it, alongside some bits of the gun and even the piping. Then edge highlight all of the black with Dark Reaper. For the lenses, all you need is a base of Caliban Green, layer of Warpstone Glow on the highest points, and finish with Corax White on the sharpest points. But continue with the white to make some spikes on the bits of the armour with a freehand. Begin the basing step with Astrogranite all over the base. With straight from the pot Basilicum Grey, shade over all of the granite. Dry brush on some Administratum Grey over the base now. For the final paint, attach the model onto a paint pot and apply Abaddon Black over the base rim. finally attach some alien neon 4mm onto that base and you can finally call it finished. And there you have it, a super fast paint job to get your defenders on the field in time for the invasion.
Who are you people?
Anvil Industry is all about making that special regiment you can never see in other games. So here is how to paint a little amount of those multiple choice pieces. Trust me, there is a lot. Start with a primer of Chaos Black and follow up with an inky white darkness on the cloth detail. Then apply Corvus Black over the inner plating of the armour. After that, apply Rhinox Hide over all the visible hands, boots and belting to act as leather. Next, apply some Caliban Green going over the goggle lenses and the energy coils on the gun. For the first in metallics, apply Barbasol Gold over the trim on the armour and the wires and trim on the gun. And finish the base step with Lead Belcher over the goggle's frame, barrel, batteries and the hanging cable under the gun. Null Oil first of the shades to be applied over the robes and silver colours. Then finish the shades with Agrax Earthshade over the gold and leather details. Begin to start the layers with Cablight Green over the robes. Follow up with Gorthor Brown to apply on all the brown. Across all the black on the gun and armour, apply on some Dawnstone. Leaving the Plague Doctor mask to have a Dark Reaper applied to all of its edges. Then, add the Warpstone Glow to all the green areas. Give some shine to the gold with Auric Armor Gold on the edges. Use Mithril Blade on all the silver details and you can now start preparing for the base. For the base we need some Sterling Mud to be applied onto the entire base. Shade on some Agrax Earthshade once the mud has fully dried. Dry the shade, then highlight the ground with Baneblade Brown in a dry brushing motion. Stick the model down onto a tall paint pot and paint the rim with Abaddon Black. Then finish the model with a tuft of Verdia Velt onto the base and you can call it done. And there you have it, a heretical example of what you can make using Anvil Industry models.
You're testing my patience, dwarf!
In Death Fields, the only sport is war, and the Iron are the dwarves that run it. So let's paint them! Start with a primer of Mechanicus Standard Grey and begin with Stegadon Scale Green over the armour plating. Then tidy the undercloth back over with Mechanicus Standard Grey base paint. After that, apply Mournfang Brown over the leather and optional fur colour. And use Rockcraft Flesh to paint over any of the visible skin on the face. Thousand Suns Blue is to be used as the base coat for the lenses and scanner lights. Instead of using dried bark for wood, we'll be using it for his moustache instead. Now onto the metallics, starting with Ironhide Steel to go over most of the gun. Follow it with Barbasol Gold over the trim in the helmet, and try not to get it over any of the other paints. Have a final base paint of Mithril Blade over the decorative gem, and we can start to shade everything. The first shade is Null Oil, going over the blue, steel and grey over the entire model. Then on all the fur, brass and leather, apply on some Agrax Earthshade. Next up is Flesh Wash over any of the visible skin. Make sure to soak up any excess with a dry brush. While that dries, apply some Blood Angels Red onto the silver to emulate the gem. Once the flesh is dried, apply some Carrowbread Crimson onto the bottom lip and the shading step is done. For the first layer, use Sotek Green over all the plating, and don't forget to be careful around this point. And Dawnstone to be painted on all the cloth that is visible to the sunlight. Gorthor Brown is up with 2 jobs, layering all of the leather and gloves, and layering the bottom half of the fur collar. Then layer the top half of the fur collar with Baneblade Brown. The moustache will need a layer of Mournfang Brown all over, then a dot of Baneblade Brown on the tips to show age. Now we can layer the flesh with flayed one flesh. Sentient turquoise next, just to carefully layer on the lenses. Now be really careful as white scar is being used to highlight the lenses and even the gem. Finally, we can finish the metallics, starting with Cycrax bronze over all the brass detailing on the belt and helmet. Then finish the gun with Runefang steel, and the model is finished, and you can start working on the base now. To start the base, use azure granite over the entire base. Don't forget to keep it thin while applying it. Once the granite dries, apply some Null oil over the entire model. Dry brush on some Administration Grey onto the areas not under the model, and we can start painting that rim. We won't be using any glass tufts for this model, so we'll just use some Abaddon Black on the rim, and you can call it fully finished. And there you have it, a Dwarf Viking fit and ready for the war sport. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you another time. Well, it has been a while since I started this thing. Again, back literally the day before I started playing Space Marine 2 for the first time, because I only bought the cheap version. Oh well, hope you enjoyed, and I'd like to see you again.